My beloved child, O soul who is listening to me, before you seek the great answers of life, you must look at what I quietly placed within you from the very beginning, the ability to choose. I did not create you as someone who must obey every command, like a machine. Nor did I form you as a being that bows its head blindly before a mindless power. I placed within you a gift greater than every form of material blessing, free will. This freedom is not a whip I use to test you, nor is it a doorway through which you may walk into careless illusions. It is my invitation, the witness of the relationship I desire, not the relationship of master and instrument, but of a love that responds, a love that returns by the intention of your own heart. When I grant you the power to choose, I do not stand far above to watch where you fall. I stand so close that my breath can touch your thoughts, so that when you look up, you realize that every step is received by me, whether it is strong or trembling. Many souls have believed that free will is a test I designed to determine who is worthy and who will be cast aside. But I tell you, there is no test in my heart. I did not create you to measure you against the cold standard of perfection. I created you because I long for true love. And true love can exist only when it is chosen and not forced. If every soul were compelled to love me as a reflex, then my presence within them would be no more than the shadow of coerced obedience, never the flame of voluntary devotion. Do you know why I do not pull your hand away when you are about to act wrongly? It is not because I am indifferent to your steps, but because if I turned the direction of your soul as a rower turns an oar, then your love would fade into unconscious submission. I want you to return to me not because of fear, not because of habit, but because you recognize that I am the only shelter your soul longs for. There are times when you ask within yourself, why did you let me step in the wrong direction, my beloved child? Because no path of maturity is ever opened by a life that has never collided with anything. If my hand blocked every turn, your soul would never learn to distinguish light from shadow, never learn to recognize the delicate trembling in the conscience I placed within you. I do not allow you to experience missteps to punish you. I allow you to feel the contrast between peace and confusion, between light and chaos, so that you may discern for yourself which direction leads back to me. When you take a wrong step, I do not use it as a reason to cut away your value. I see it as a necessary piece in the journey of your soul's maturity. A craftsman does not discard the stone because the first strike of the chisel is uneven. He continues striking gently, patiently, until the true form appears. Free will is not the beginning of danger, it is the beginning of trust. I trust you enough to place the key in your hand, even when you do not yet know which door to open. I trust you enough not to control you moment by moment. If I needed to force every soul onto the correct road, I would have created beings incapable of choosing wrongly, but also incapable of loving me. Freedom is the evidence that I do not want to seize your heart from the outside. I invite you to open it from within. This freedom allows you to come to me like a beloved returning to a refuge, not like a slave standing before a judge. And in every moment you use your freedom to come back. I rejoice more than at any miracle you will ever witness, because that moment is proof that love has won within your soul, not fear, not compulsion. Remember this, my child, the fact that you can refuse me is not a sign of weakness in my design, but a sign of the strength of my love for you. I do not force you to stay. I stand beside you. I quietly watch you weigh your options. Listen to your inner voice. Wrestle between possibilities, and then choose where you will place your heart. When you come to me voluntarily, when you say, I choose you, heaven exhales in joy. For that choice is not born of fear, but of recognition that I am the place where your soul finds meaning. Recognition that I am the source of a love that nothing on earth can replace, and a soul that chooses me freely, without display, without proving anything. is the most beautiful gift creation can return to me. My child, many people believe freedom is measured by outward actions, what you do, what you avoid, what you achieve, what you abandon. But the soul is not reflected through the movement of the hands or the words on the lips. The soul is reflected through what happens in the silence between decisions. You may keep your face calm, but if your heart is heavy with bitterness, that calmness is only a garment. You may do good, but if deep within you seek only praise, then that goodness is only a mask. Free will is not the right to do, it is the space to become. It exposes essence, it does not hide essence. I do not look at your actions as if they were framed portraits. I look at the tone of your soul as you act, whether you choose me or choose the noise of the world. Freedom, my child, is not like a wide open door for you to run anywhere you wish. It is like a mirror in a quiet room where only you and I look. What you speak to others may impress them, but what you speak to yourself will alter the course of eternity. Many choose eloquent words to defend their honor, but when they stand in silence, what do they protect, their pride or their soul? You may act rightly because you fear judgment, or you may do good quietly because you wish your heart to remain aligned with me. The two actions look the same, but their essence stands at opposite ends. One is the embellishment of the self, the other is the response to truth. Free will does not evaluate you by appearances. It places you before yourself and asks, who are you when no one is watching? Only when a soul has freedom. My child, does it reveal its real roots? The roots of a tree make no sound as they pierce the earth, yet they alone determine how firmly the trunk will stand. So it is with the quiet choices in your heart, the words you do not speak, the reactions you do not expose, the impulses you restrain. These are woven into the essence of who you are. The world calls it suppression. I call it maturity. For you are not living to perform, you are living to be in harmony. You do not aim for applause, you aim for light. And there your freedom becomes clear, not freedom to indulge in impulse, but freedom to refuse what weakens the soul. There are souls who try to hide their true nature behind moral behavior. They learn noble phrases, display kindness before crowds, and know how to use religion as a cloak. But freedom is a lamp turned inward. It does not shine on the crowd to see who applauds. It shines on the hidden corner where you stand alone. Freedom exposes the core, just as gold is revealed only through fire. What you choose in silence, in places no one records, in moments no one witnesses, this is what I see most clearly. It is not a small action. It is essence naming itself, and that essence will guide your steps not once, but for the rest of your life. My beloved child, do not fear when freedom exposes you to yourself. I do not subtract worth from you because you are unfinished. I do not grow disappointed because you are not yet steady. I only want you to see the truth so that you do not live as the shadow of your own life. A strong soul is not the one that never errs. It is the one that never hides from the light. Where light is present, essence is refined, and freedom becomes harmony, not chains. When you choose the good, not because of pressure, but because you recognize it as part of who you are, that is the moment essence and action no longer stand apart. That is the moment you do not merely do what is right, you become what is right. I gave your soul the gift of freedom, not to watch you from a distance, but to walk beside you on every winding road. I do not sit on a throne above you like a supervisor waiting to record your mistakes. I am near, in the smallest movements of the mind, in the moments when you weigh silence, in the breath you have not yet formed into words. Many imagine I only appear once you have chosen correctly, as though light arrives only when the door has already opened. But I am there long before the final choice is made, in the instant when your heart trembles, in the moment when intention wavers. I am already standing beside your soul. I do not pull your hand, but I keep mine open. I do not build fences, but I keep the path home facing peace. Free will does not push me away from you. It draws me closer in a subtle, tender way. If I forced you to walk the correct road, you would know me only as a rule, never as a source of life. And if I prevented every mistake, you would never know the resilient strength of a soul that rises on its own feet. I honor each of your choices the way a potter honors clay spinning on the wheel, not rushing to correct, not striking in anger, only placing a gentle hand where form can unfold according to its nature. I do not require perfection before I approach. I approach so that imperfection may be shaped by love. Because I stand at your side, you are never abandoned to your decisions, even when they are still rough. Free will does not create distance between you and me. Fear and shame do. Some souls believe, I can return only when I have chosen rightly, and so they hide me behind their layers of silence. But I do not want you to come to me only when everything is solved. I want you to come when you still do not know where to go. I do not demand explanations. I am here to look at the question with you. I do not ask for justification. I want you to listen to the soft voice that rises from your heart. Its sound does not condemn. It only reminds you the door has never been locked. Many live as if I am the referee, determining whether they win or lose. But I am not waiting at the finish line. I walk beside you along the road. Scripture has said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. Hebrews 1:3-5. I am not beside you to prove you are strong or weak. I am beside you so you are not devoured by loneliness. For isolation destroys freedom more than any mistake ever could. When you walk in silence, I walk beside you in silence. When you hesitate, I do not force. I lay peace upon you like morning mist, so you may sense where I am. And when you choose wrongly, I do not turn your error into a sentence. I turn it into the beginning of insight. Do not fear that your choices will cause me to abandon you. I am not a God who demands that you decipher my intentions. I am the source of life, who wants you to know I am not going anywhere. I stand next to you when you choose the good. I still stand next to you when you stumble, preventing you from sinking to the bottom. My presence is not a reward for the flawless. It is a safe space where the soul is allowed to learn, to grow, to discover what leads to true peace. And when you come to me not by victory but by sincerity, that is when free will fulfills its purpose. You return not because you were frightened, but because you finally recognized where you belong. Freedom is not displayed only in grand crossroads where two blazing paths stand before you. Freedom is shown in the small, unnoticed choices when you keep silent instead of adding to someone's wound, when you slow down instead of rushing, when you cradle the good instead of claiming the last word. These gestures seem as small as a leaf falling onto a river, yet they ripple outward, touching distant banks your eyes will never see. A soul does not pass through life in leaps, but through steady, quiet choices. No one hears the sound of roots piercing the earth, but the tree's endurance is decided by the roots, not by the flowers upon the branches. Human eyes see the surface. Mine see the movement in the depths. Choices are not measured by their drama but by their direction. A small decision placed correctly can realign the entire trajectory of a life. A small misalignment repeated can push a soul farther from peace. Not because I punish, but because reality answers according to its nature. Like a stream losing one channel, the water will seek a new direction. So a soul turning from the light will drift toward whatever it pursues. In my sight, there is no such thing as a harmless choice. Every motion is a whisper from the soul. Who am I becoming? And each whisper, fragile as smoke, is enough to shape the road ahead. I know there are choices you think are mere impulses, a quick reply formed in your mind, an unguarded glance, a path chosen out of exhaustion, a delay that felt accidental. Yet it is precisely these moments that reveal the orientation within you. An untrained soul acts from emotion. A soul that is maturing acts from awareness. I do not condemn you when you react. I watch how you learn from that reaction. Growth does not come from never choosing wrongly. It comes from recognizing what the mistake has exposed inside you. One misstep does not weaken the bridge. It weakens only when it is ignored, when no one reinforces it. No one examines it. No one notices the crack. There are people who believe their choices are powerful when they decide under the eyes of others. Yet their minds tremble when they stand alone. Freedom is not proven in applause. It is proven in silence, where you have nothing to display except the truth of yourself. You may reach outward with strong arms to rescue others, but if you do not know how to place your hand upon your own heart, the soul will collapse. I have seen souls doing good with a steady exterior, while inside them echoes the tapping of exhaustion. Their actions are not wrong, but the roots have been forgotten. A tree withstands wind with its trunk, but it survives drought only because its roots know how to reach deeper. I tell you this so that you may recognize that every choice is a step into spiritual ground. Either the roots go deeper, or the roots stop growing. There is no neutral standstill in the spiritual journey. You are either moving closer to peace, or drifting away from it with decisions that seem insignificant. It is not that I push you, nor that I force you, but that the very orbit of life responds to what you put into it. As soil gives rise to roots, and roots give rise to the stem, and the stem gives rise to shade. Everything begins with invisible movements, and the only one who can discern them is not the world, it is your soul when it knows how to look inward. Free will is not like a certificate handed to you once that exists forever. It is like a stream that stays clear only as long as it continues to flow. When you surrender yourself to passivity, freedom becomes rigid, like a spring blocked and turned into stagnant water. I do not take away your ability to choose, but if you do not nourish it with wakefulness, your very soul will lose the ability to recognize my guidance. Freedom must be preserved through continual returning, through those moments when you examine your motives, through the quiet corrections you make simply because you sense goodness calling you. No one can strip you of your ability to choose, but you yourself can allow it to wear down when you live as though everything has already been decided, as though discernment and growth are no longer needed. There are souls who believe freedom is the right to do whatever they desire, but a desire left untended becomes like a boat drifting at sea without a rudder. We do not measure freedom by what you are able to do, but by what you know how to refrain from doing. Not every open door is an invitation. Not every opportunity is a blessing. Freedom matures when you learn to recognize the quiet call of peace amid the clamor of desire. When you can say no to what is enticing but erodes the soul, then freedom becomes the ability to discern rather than merely react by instinct. A soul that preserves its freedom does not chase fleeting emotions but sees beyond them into what will shape its very being. Freedom is not flat ground. It is a river that must be tended so that mud does not overtake it. Each time you choose spiritual laziness, each time you delay returning, each time you allow weariness to guide you instead of my gentle peace, the water within you slows a little more. No one sees it from the outside. Your surface may still appear bright, but within, the cloudiness accumulates. I do not rebuke you when you are tired, but I call you to rise so you may cleanse your inner stream by deliberately returning. Freedom must be nourished with intention. I want to choose what is good today. Even if no one applauds you, even if no one notices, even if I alone bear witness. Some believe I test them by being silent, but silence is not a test. It is the environment in which freedom is forged into inner strength. When my voice does not thunder, you finally have the chance to listen to the rhythm of your own heart. Do you choose good because you love me, or because you fear being wrong? Do you keep your promise out of sincerity, or out of fear of losing face, without external pressure. The soul reveals what it truly believes. It is in those empty spaces that free will is confirmed. A small choice made in silence has more value than 100 actions performed before a crowd. For I do not count actions, I measure the direction of the heart. Remember, this freedom cannot be preserved by yesterday's wisdom. The soul lives in the present. The water that flows today cannot be sustained by last year's rain. Therefore, you must not neglect freedom like someone who forgets their garden and then wonders why it has become barren. Water it with integrity. Tend it with gratitude. Guide it with listening. When you maintain freedom as a living stream, it becomes the force that nourishes your spiritual life. When you allow it to stop, it becomes a stagnant pool you yourself will not want to live in. I do not keep the stream for you. I only walk along its banks, so you will not be afraid of being swept away. The rest belongs to the steps of a soul that knows how to care for the gift it has been given. When the soul walks, it leaves footprints, even if it does not see them. Every choice, even the smallest, creates a new trajectory that you recognize only after many steps have passed. I did not design the world to judge you at every gesture, like a magistrate waiting to record your faults. I designed reality as a mirror. You move toward what you aim for, and you receive what you cultivate within yourself. If you sow peace in your heart, light will spread around you without effort. If you hold on to bitterness, darkness will seek the hidden corners where you try to hide. It is not that I am punishing you, it is that seeds always grow according to the soil in which they lie. A grain of rice cannot grow into a plant if it is placed in dry sand. Not because I despise it, but because the nature of the soil and the nature of the seed do not align. Some fear that a wrong choice is the final sentence, like a verdict carved in stone. But the path does not judge, it simply stretches in the direction you walk. Just as a person moving downhill is not hated by the slope, but guided there by their own steps. There is no punishment in it, only consequence. When you allow your soul to slide into anger, your interactions will be colored by anger. When you choose patience even while your heart trembles, I may not immediately transform your circumstances, but the world around you begins to respond with new open doors. Many people demand quick answers. Why can a single moment of neglect make the soul feel so dry? But they do not understand that moment is not just a moment. It is one step taken toward a different landscape. Spiritual reality does not operate by shouted commands, but by the gentle motion of principles. Light and darkness do not need to argue to be distinguished. Light exists where it is chosen. Darkness exists where light is withdrawn. Nowhere do I declare, you must suffer, nor do I say, you deserve peace. I allow the soul to walk according to its own will, and life responds like an echo in the valley. A soft voice returns softly, but a cry of rage returns like a strong wind. It is not that I reward one and punish the other. This is simply the reflex of the road, operating according to the nature I placed in all things from the beginning. Just as your body responds to how you treat it, one nourishing meal does not make you happy at once, but it builds health. One rushed night of sleep does not destroy you instantly, but it burrows slowly into your clarity. The soul is the same. It does not reshape itself in a single decision, but every small decision stacked together creates direction. Those gestures that seem insignificant, a word of apology because you honor truth more than pride, a moment of silence that prevents harm, a single glance that comforts someone in pain. These are the small stones that form the path your soul will later walk with ease. And when the soul chooses to hide in deceit or indifference, it is not I who closes the gate, it is the gate within itself that gradually shuts. Do not mistake consequences for a whip I hold in my hand. They are the shadow of your choices. When you stand before the light, the shadow falls behind you. When you turn your back, That same shadow covers your face. No one needs to threaten you. No one needs to praise you. What matters is that you understand each step quietly shapes who you will become. I do not take away your freedom because you choose wrongly. I simply allow the soul to experience where that choice leads, so it may learn what words are not strong enough to teach. There is no cruelty in this. Only the precision of the law I placed into the nature of all living things. And when you know how to return, you do not break that law. You simply step onto a path where the light can guide you once again. Some believe that freedom only exists when standing before two grand roads, as if the soul is truly tested only when it must decide whether to live or abandon, to keep or to lose. But the place where I put freedom is not in dramatic moments, but in the subtle movements of ordinary life, when a bitter thought passes through your mind and you choose to let it go, when your eyes meet the exhaustion of another and you choose not to judge, when you are in a hurry but gently pause to take one slower breath. In those moments, no one applauds you. No horn announces your victory. But I see you choosing me not through great public deeds, but by refusing to let your heart fall into the shadow of instinct. Freedom is not a sharp blade you use to cut away what you dislike. It is like morning sunlight passing through a window. That light does not break the frame or demand attention. It simply exists. You may draw the curtains aside and let it enter, or keep them closed and live beneath the shadow you yourself have created. I do not force the light to enter your life. I simply let it remain, waiting for you to realize it has always been ready. Every choice you make, whether it is choosing silence in the face of provocation or speaking truth when no one notices, is a moment in which you draw the curtain, perhaps only slightly, perhaps unseen by anyone. Yet the light changes. Freedom is not the right to do anything. Freedom is the ability to recognize that the light is waiting, and to know you are not compelled to live in darkness. Many souls dream that I will speak clearly, turn left, not right, so they no longer need to discern, no longer fear being wrong, no longer bear responsibility before their own hearts. But if I did this, your freedom would disappear, and with it your growth. I do not want you to merely follow orders. I want you to train your spiritual eyes to detect the signs of peace in every decision. Peace is quiet. It does not overwhelm you, does not drag you, does not win by force. It is like the breath after rain, like a thin layer of light resting upon the surface of a lake, like a flower slowly opening at dawn. Mature freedom is not when you wait for me to command. It is when you realize I am already guiding you, not with instructions, but with presence. There are times you think your choices are too small to matter: an act of forgiveness because you don't want to argue, a restrained word because you don't want to wound someone, a return to prayer instead of drowning yourself in meaningless chatter. These are like a gentle motion of the hand drawing a curtain, but the light transforms the entire room. You cannot know how many dark corners the sunlight has touched, just as you cannot see the ripples spreading from that small act into the lives of people you never imagined. I do not ask you to perform grand deeds. I only invite you to recognize my presence in the smallest ones. And it is that recognition that redirects the soul. Freedom has long been misunderstood as a battlefield between good and evil, between heaven and the abyss. But when you learn to see me within each movement of your own being, freedom is no longer a battleground. It becomes the place where you meet me. You do not choose to prove. You choose to harmonize. You do not decide from fear. You decide from the peace I sow in you like sunlight in a flower. You do not ask me to remove choices from your life. You only need to learn to see me standing in the midst of them. And once you see, you no longer need to choose correctly. You simply step toward whatever direction leads you into peace. Because that peace is not a feeling, but my whisper that you are walking the right way. There are steps that make you stumble, not because your soul is weak, but because you are learning to see yourself clearly. In those moments, most people respond with extremes, either denial, as though nothing ever happened, or burying themselves beneath self-judgment, as though I have erased them from my heart. But mistakes do not demand that you condemn yourself, nor do they ask you to pretend to be strong. Mistakes are only a mirror. They do not tell you that you are ugly. Do not threaten to push you down. They simply reflect what you have walked through, so you may see where adjustment is needed. When you choose to return, you do not erase the slip. You simply refuse to let the slip define your soul. Like a traveler who slips on a wet road during a night rain, he does not curse the rain, nor destroy the path. He gets up, brushes the dirt from his knees, and continues walking, because he knows that falling says nothing about his worth, it only shows where the ground was slippery. So it is with you when you stumble in the spiritual journey. I do not look at you with disappointment. I look at you as a mother steadying a child, learning to walk, not to judge every fall, but to ensure that you know there is always a hand ready to lift you. I do not keep score, I accompany. What I wait for is not perfection, but the courage to return. Some souls believe that returning means proving to me they have improved. But returning is not the promise I will never be wrong again. Returning is the admission I was wrong, and I want to learn from it. Truth does not diminish the value of the soul. Truth only removes the shell of pretense. When you stand before your error without hiding, you open the door for light. And light does not ask how foolish you were. Light only asks, do you want to keep walking? A mature soul is not measured by how few times it falls, but by its ability to look at where it fell and step forward with clearer eyes. Many people use their failures to weaponize themselves against themselves. They say, I am unworthy, I am ruined, but I have never called you in that way. I do not label a soul because of a moment of weakness. In Scripture, when the prodigal son returned, Luke 15, the father did not ask, why were you reckless? Why did you waste it all? He simply ran to him, embraced him, placed a robe on his shoulders, and called for a feast, not because he forgot what happened, but because he knew that returning is not denial of the past, it is the declaration that the soul is still alive. I do not exchange you for a better version of you. I receive you exactly as you are, so that I may walk forward with you. Truth is not a cold blade slicing the soul in half. It is the light leading you through the darkness you created with your decisions. When you run from truth, the darkness expands. When you face it, that darkness is contained. I do not ask you to explain why you got lost. I only want you to turn your head and see that I am still there. Returning is not the act of erasing errors. It is the act of recognizing I belong to peace, not to confusion. And the moment you say this without excuses, without a report, without proof, your steps have already begun to move in the right direction. Many souls live as though the purpose of freedom is merely to avoid mistakes, like someone walking a narrow path with their eyes fixed on the ground so they do not trip. But if the soul only knows how to avoid, it will remain forever in a defensive posture, never rising into the goodness I have placed within it. Freedom is not a fence that keeps you from falling into the abyss. It is the open sky in which you grow, the space in which your nature can unfold like branches reaching toward the sun. When you do not stumble, that alone is not enough for the soul to mature. Maturity comes when you know why you choose what is good, and your joy lies in walking alongside it, not in fearing the shadow of what is wrong. Some souls believe maturity is keeping themselves untouched by failure, like protecting a clay vessel from scratches. But a clay vessel does not bear fruit, and a soul that only knows how to preserve itself never brings forth life. I do not invite you to become a spotless statue in a sealed room. I invite you to become soil sown into, scorched by the sun, washed by rain, at times dry, at times threatened by weeds, yet in the end, blossoming because of the life within you. Freedom opens this possibility, not the capacity to never be wrong, but the capacity to love, to forgive, to stand firm when the goodness inside you has not yet fully taken shape. Look at the one learning an instrument. In the beginning, they avoid striking the wrong notes. Their hands tremble, their ears tense, and their heart loses joy. But one day, when they feel the rhythm, music becomes part of their breathing. Their hands no longer fear mistakes, but simply want to express what has lived in their heart. Your soul is the same. When freedom is still young, you only know how to avoid error, fear, harm, fear, judgment. But when freedom has been nurtured, you begin choosing what is right, not because of pressure, but because it is the natural voice of your heart. This is not the achievement of skill, but the blooming of a nature I have planted, watered, and awakened through every moment you have returned to me. I do not desire that you turn yourself into a moral machine programmed only to avoid wrongdoing. I do not need souls who follow the rules merely as cars stay within lanes out of fear of collision. I long to see you listen to peace, to recognize goodness the way one recognizes the familiar scent of wind, when you choose love instead of distance, when you choose to uplift instead of remaining silent, when you choose trust instead of suspicion, you enter the realm of maturity. In that realm, freedom is no longer a protective boundary, but a path that leads you into subtle glory. You no longer merely know what I desire. You begin to desire what I desire. Spiritual maturity is not a road without risk. It is like a sail at sea. The wind may change direction. The waves may rise. Yet through those very forces you learn to steer the boat. I do not place you in a sheltered bay merely to keep you safe. I take you to the ocean so you may know the wind, read the sky, and trust the soul I myself have trained. Free will is that wind. It may shake the sail, but it is also what carries you to the shores of maturity, where you do not simply know how to live, but live in me, through me, and for me. Freedom does not reveal its nature in a single brilliant moment, but in movements repeated quietly over time. Every soul has moments of breakthrough, but it is the long stretch of quiet days that determines who it becomes. A single right choice may open a ray of light, but it is the repetition of that choice that turns the light into a source of life. No one becomes compassionate because of a single good deed, just as no one becomes bitter because of one wound. What shapes you is not the grand moment, but the rhythm you remain faithful to, the rhythm of trust, the rhythm of peace, the rhythm of goodness chosen again and again. Scripture tells of Daniel, who was not a hero because of one decisive act, but because of the rhythm he practiced in days when no one was watching. He opened the windows toward Jerusalem and prayed 3 times a day, without stage lights, without applause, without trumpet calls announcing his mission. Daniel did not wait for a crisis to display faithfulness. Faithfulness was already his rhythm of life, and it was that very rhythm that formed the soul that stood firm among lions. Many see the final result and long for such strong faith, but they do not see the silent years of repetition, opening the window, kneeling, turning his heart toward me, regardless of what the day held. No single act defined Daniel, rhythm defined him. A single choice may come from emotion, from impulse, from a moment of inspiration, but repeated choices shape the soul. When you forgive once, your heart is momentarily relieved, but when you forgive again and again, your mind is purified so it no longer keeps shards of injury as foundations. When you choose silence once in the face of insult, you preserve peace for a moment, but when you repeatedly choose silence instead of anger, you are training your soul to live on a higher plane of peace. Repetition transforms behavior into nature, turns choices into habits, and habits into the rhythm of life. I do not invite you to become a soul correct in a single moment. I invite you to become a soul belonging to me through continuous steps. That rhythm does not shout, nor does it seek to prove itself. It moves through life like the bloodstream, unpretentious, yet carrying life to every part of the body. A pianist does not become a master because of one day of perfect performance, but because of 1,000 days, repeating notes no one hears until the fingers remember them by themselves. A runner does not grow strong because of one victorious day, but because of hundreds of mornings when they force themselves out of bed. Likewise, the soul does not become steadfast because of one sermon that touched it, but because of repeated spiritual decisions, choosing prayer over complaint, choosing understanding over blame, choosing return over escape. Each of these moments is like a root pushing through the soil. No one hears the sound, but the deeper the root descends, the more firmly the tree stands when the wind roars. Rhythm is not merely action, rhythm is the memory of the soul. Everything you do today will be repeated in some form tomorrow. If you repeat surrender, your soul will learn to fold before every trial. If you repeat postponement, time will become the small pit that slides your soul away from what it once intended. If you repeat bitterness, your heart will treat resistance as instinct. But if you repeat returning, soon the return will no longer be effort, it will become natural. When you repeat seeking peace, your soul will begin to perceive peace even before you consciously look for it. And when you repeat walking in the light will become the language through which you think, not merely a destination to conquer. I do not build the spiritual life upon miracles, I build it upon rhythm. Miracles are only the blossoms, rhythm is the stream that nourishes the tree. The world is intoxicated with moments of blazing intensity, but I look at the small flames that are lit every day. It is not the miracles that allow you to endure the seasons of drought, but the rhythm of living that returns to me, that keeps the heart open, that lets peace cover every movement. That is why I do not ask you to reach the summit of faith. I teach you to walk step by step in faith. For a mountain does not exist because of its peak, but because of the foundation beneath it. A soul is not sustained by moments of ecstasy, but by the spiritual habits carved deeply within it. Rhythm is also the measure of trust. I do not entrust great work to a soul simply because it excels for one brilliant day. I entrust mission to a soul that I have seen return, again and again, through days when no one calls its name. I trust rhythm more than talent. I trust steadiness more than inspiration. I trust a heart that knows how to walk slowly more than a mind that knows how to run fast. When you learn to repeat the choice of goodness, I can place other souls in your hands, not because you are perfect, but because you do not abandon the rhythm. Those who stumble can lean on you not because you are strong, but because you know how to stand back up, and that rising is not a momentary instinct. It is a rhythm that has entered the bloodstream. Perhaps you believe spiritual rhythm is boring like the ticking of a clock, but the soul does not need fireworks, it needs a heartbeat. That steady sound is not loud, but it sustains life. Praying consistently, even a single sentence, is a heartbeat. Forgiving consistently, even with trembling hands, is a heartbeat. Seeking me consistently, even when you hear nothing, is also a heartbeat. Those who wait for inspiration forever live according to the weather. Those who keep the rhythm become the atmosphere itself. A soul that maintains rhythm is no longer pulled by drought or by violent winds. It becomes one who carries spring within. The experience of Israel in the wilderness proves this manna was not to be stored for many days. It was given each morning. I did not want my people to live on the memory of yesterday's miracle. I wanted them to live on the rhythm of trust today. So I made the manna last only for the day it was given, so they would learn that life does not come from stockpiling for the future. but from walking in rhythm with me, not because I am stingy, but because I know the soul loses rhythm when it lives from its past. Rhythm is healthy dependence. Each day you seek me, that day you are sustained, not because you must prove anything, but because the spiritual life is not a treasure hoarded in storage. It is a stream you must drink daily. And when rhythm becomes your nature, you no longer strain to do the right thing. You simply live as yourself in me, like the pianist who no longer looks at the keys, like the blacksmith who no longer measures every strike, like the farmer who does not count each drop of rain. The soul learns to walk naturally in harmony. Freedom becomes not a calculation between good and evil, but a wholesome rhythm in which you want nothing except what leads you to peace. You no longer ask, "Am I doing enough?" You simply live, and your life itself becomes the answer. There are souls who think I speak only when thunder roars, when storms shake the earth beneath their feet, when events explode across their world. They wait for booming signs, for sudden shocks, for emotional eruptions, for miracles that demand the attention of the world. But the path I lead does not pass only through days of fire. It passes through quiet mornings, gentle afternoons, nights where only the sound of your breath remains. My silence is not emptiness. It is the environment where the soul grows. I do not cast you into the storm to prove my power. I place you in the soft wind so that you may train your wings. For a storm may lift you once, but only the gentle wind teaches you how to fly every day, like the potter who lightly spins the wheel before placing his hands upon the clay. I often choose silence to center your soul. You do not hear me shout, but you can feel the rhythm of movement. Silence does not oppress you. It creates space for your will to appear. In the noise of the world, the soul easily blames circumstances when it errs. I acted because others pushed me. I reacted because of the situation. But in silence there is no excuse to lean on. There is only you and your choice. And there, I see the true face of the will. I watch whether you step toward me when no one is pushing your back, when no one applauds, when there are no lights, no praises. Silence is a gentle test. Do you choose me for my sake, or for the sound that surrounds you? When Elijah hid in the cave, he believed I would appear through the storm, through the earthquake, through the fire. But I was not in the strong wind, nor in the quake, nor in the flames. I came in the gentle whisper, thinner than a breath, not because I was weak, but because I wanted Elijah to relearn how to listen. Fear had trained his heart to respond only to harsh sounds. I brought him back to what first made him recognize me, the whisper. I do not need to shout to awaken a soul. I need only enough quiet for you to remember that it was I who breathed the first breath into you. If I can create the universe with a word, I can also guide the soul with silence. Many think silence is the sign that I have abandoned them, but when a child learns to walk, a father does not run after them to lift them every time they wobble. He stands nearby, eyes full of love, yet hands patient. For if he lifts the child each time, the child will never learn to balance. My silence is a distance short but necessary, so that you may stand on your own spiritual feet. I do not want you to become a soul that waits for me to do everything. I want you to know the strength is already inside you, not because you reached for it, but because I placed it there long before you understood what it meant. When you do not hear me speak, remember that I am training you to live by what I have already taught. Silence is also the way I heal the places you do not want to look. Loud words may stir zeal, but silence draws out the hidden corners. In the stillness, you see the fragile thoughts that noise once covered. You see the quiet anger that busyness once locked away. You see the old wounds that ambition once caused you to forget. I do not place you in silence to frighten you. I place you in silence so that you may see what I have seen all along. When you learn not to fear quietness, you will realize that quietness is the laboratory of growth, where you learn to align your heartbeat with the rhythm of my peace. In silence, I teach you something thunder can never convey. Faith does not need evidence to live. Thunder makes you believe because you see, you hear, you feel. Silence makes you believe because you recognize I am present even when you cannot see. True faith does not form in moments of emotional height. True faith sprouts when you sit before the blank page of your soul, seeing no answers, having no guarantees, only trust. The strongest souls are not those who always hear me clearly. They are the souls who continue walking when I do not speak. That is not foolishness. It is unity. You no longer need a call when you have already learned to walk in rhythm with me. Do not mistake my silence for absence. I do not leave you, nor do I stand far away to observe. I stand beside you, like the light of dawn slipping through a crack in the door, not loud, not forceful, simply present. You do not need to feel that presence for it to be real. Just as your heart beats in your chest even when you cannot hear it, I continue to sustain spiritual life within you even when your soul is tired. Let silence become the place where you breathe me in, not the place where you demand proof of me. There are things you do that no one records, no one praises, no one applauds, choices so small you assume they carry no spiritual weight. But in my eyes, that is where the soul is being shaped. A gentle word instead of retaliation. A step back to preserve peace in your family. A nod of understanding when someone else is irritable. A moment when you reset your thoughts instead of indulging bitterness. All of these movements are as quiet as dust falling to the ground. Yet they are what form the true measure of your soul. I have never evaluated you by your blazing moments. I look at you when no one is watching, because that is when your true will speaks. A soul does not mature through occasional breakthroughs, but through simple habits practiced so often that they become instinct. A builder does not lay a foundation with one massive stone, but with hundreds of bricks placed in the right position, at the right time, with the right pressure. No one watches. There is no applause, no surge of triumph. Yet those silent bricks determine whether the building will stand or collapse. So it is with your life. The world loves to witness moments of victory. I look at how you live each day. It is your daily rhythm, your measured reactions, the gentle nudges of conscience, the times you adjust a thought before it turns into action. These are the spiritual bricks I lay into your foundation. Like an ancient tree, stretching upward without a sound, your soul grows in quiet. No one hears the roots pushing into the soil. No one sees each vein of the leaf being woven in the mist. No one witnesses every droplet of water rising through the trunk. They only see the full canopy once it is complete. But I see every small process. I witness each quiet choice you make. When you pass through a cold day and still keep your heart tender, you are adding another root. When you hold your tongue to keep peace in your home even when you are right, you are thickening the trunk. When you refuse to let fear dictate your actions, you are letting the sap flow through the grain. You may feel as though nothing is happening, but I see a soul being formed in that very stillness. There are souls who long for me to use great events to transform them, as if only a storm is strong enough to erase their weakness. But I do not create storms just to prove a point. I build through ordinary moments. When you wash your hands after a long day's work and release a small resentment from your heart, I see it. When you look into the eyes of someone who has failed and do not despise them, I see it. When you endure an unfair judgment without exploding inside, I see it. Hiddenness does not lessen the value of the act, it purifies it. A calling is not a halo around your head, it is the ability to keep peace even when you are not protected by any light except mine. I do not want your soul built out of noise, because noise easily confuses you between true change and fleeting emotion. Noise offers a quick sense of victory, but it does not nourish the soul. Quiet, on the other hand, produces endurance. It trains you to stand when no one is holding your hand, to love when no one loves you well, to forgive when there is no thank you, to choose what is good when there is no well done. Those who mature in the hidden place do not need proof to keep going, because they have tied their life to me at a depth beyond any human recognition. Remember this: hidden actions are the language of a soul that has grown. Your voice does not speak only through promises and declarations. It speaks through what you do when no one knows. I do not need you to prove to the world that you have changed. I want that change to become your nature. When quiet faithfulness has become your foundation, you no longer have to strain to behave well. You simply become one who carries goodness. You no longer need to say, "I believe," because the way you walk is testimony enough. And it is in that hiddenness that your free will is no longer a field of constant calculation, but an environment for harmony, where the soul slowly becomes stable, patient, and enduring. There will be moments in your life when everything seems to be falling apart, plans unravel, promises are broken, relationships grow cold, and what you once trusted becomes unclear. You look at these trials and assume I am tearing you down, that I have lit a fire to burn what you are building. But testing is not a hammer smashing metal, it is a refining fire, not to turn you into ashes, but to separate what cannot travel with you into eternal life. I do not send you into the fire to prove that you are weak. I send you into the fire so you can see where you are not yet free. Only under pressure does what truly rules the soul become visible. Metal outside the furnace may feel confident in its strength, but only under intense heat do its hidden weaknesses surface. Testing works the same way. It reveals the areas you believed were surrendered to me, but are still clutched by your own will. When you are betrayed and anger explodes, it shows that your freedom is still bound to a need for recognition. When you do not receive what you hoped for and bitterness rises, it proves your soul is not yet used to trusting me in the wilderness. When you are forced to wait and restlessness flares, it exposes that you have not yet learned to walk in my rhythm. These are not collapses, they are mirrors, showing you where you stand. In everyday life, I place small trials before you, so you are not dragged into deeper abysses. As a blacksmith knows that if weak steel is sent into battle, it will shatter in the warrior's hand. I do not send you into heavy responsibility while your soul is still brittle. I use trials that are just enough to teach you how to stand. A mild criticism, an unexpected delay, someone misunderstanding your intentions. These are small fires, but they are fires I kindle so you can learn to bear the heat. You may feel you are being made to struggle, but in truth I am shielding you from greater harm. You see the pain, I see the chance for your soul to be bent into the shape of light. Watch the metal in the fire. It does not scream, does not complain, does not run. It endures the heat, changes, softens, and allows the craftsman to bend it into a useful curve. If it resisted the fire, it would fracture. If it were too proud of its hardness, it would break under pressure. If it clung to its outward shine, it would never become a true tool. So it is with you. I do not need you to prove that you are strong enough. I need you willing to be shaped by me. True strength is not the absence of trials, but the ability to pass through them without losing the goodness I planted in you. There are those who say freedom means living by your feelings, staying far from all pain, avoiding every pressure. But freedom is not avoiding the fire. Freedom is the ability to go through the fire without being destroyed. When you know that I hold the flame, you no longer fear it. When you know the furnace rests in the hands of the one who made you, You no longer see trials as enemies. You begin to see fire as an invitation to maturity. Testing does not steal what is truly precious. It only removes what cannot lead you into heaven: hidden pride, quiet greed, buried fear, misplaced confidence, the habit of clinging to praise rather than to faithfulness. There are moments when you think I have abandoned you in the midst of affliction, but in truth I am standing very close, watching every movement within your soul, like a blacksmith who places the metal into the furnace and withdraws it at the right moment. I do not allow the fire to ruin you. I know the temperature you can endure. I know the threshold required so that you will not break. You walk through dark weeks not because I am absent, but because I am trying to teach you to see yourself. What makes you tremble? What makes you react? What causes you to abandon the peace I have given? Trial is a measure. It does not punish. It only tells the truth. And when you come out of the fire, you do not bear the appearance of someone who has conquered, but the form of a soul that has been realigned according to my order. You do not rip yourself out of suffering by a storm of emotion. You rise from it through gentle endurance. You no longer need to boast of strength. You know that your firmness comes from me, not from victory, not from the praise of others, not from escaping trial, but from your ability to let me shape you according to truth. Trial does not destroy you. It makes you into a version of yourself that even you have never imagined. A version strong enough to carry my light into the world. There is a kind of trial that does not come from loss or failure, but from the distorted gaze of others. They think you are arrogant when you choose silence. They assume you are indifferent when you choose to keep peace. They believe you are self-absorbed when you refuse to enter the whirlwind of argument. You do not shout back to defend yourself. You simply feel a quiet sadness cling to your soul, like the wind slipping through the crack of a door at night. Not strong enough to topple you, yet enough to make you tremble from within. These moments do not expose your truth before the world. They expose your truth before me. Where do you seek peace when every explanation proves useless, like a tree standing in the storm? The trunk does not scream to prove it is not weak. It simply grasps the roots that have sunk deep into the earth. The wind does not care how many times the tree has once reached upward. The storm does not inquire how it nurtured its leaves. It only strikes, only presses, only seeks to measure the endurance of the stem. And the tree, without roots anchored deeply, will break no matter how green its leaves appear. When you are misunderstood, I am giving you the chance to look down into the roots of your own spirit. What do you cling to? What do you keep? Do you seek comfort from praise, or do you return to? My palm roots do not prove themselves with words. They prove themselves by standing firm. Misunderstanding has a peculiar power. It does not destroy you from the outside. It tests you from within. Harsh criticism may stir anger, but cold silence has the strength to shake your foundation. When someone cannot see your true intention, your mind begins to talk to itself. Am I wrong? Am I useless? Am I not enough? I see those internal dialogues. I do not rush to silence them, because they are the small crack between you and the world through which I may step in. True peace is not born from applause. It is born from the awareness that only I see you fully. Remember, you are not the definition of a rumor, a careless sentence, or an unrefined glance. You are a soul woven by me from light. When the world does not understand you, it does not mean you have lost your way. It means that the light I sowed in you does not always have a language the world can decipher. Some people only recognize the brilliance of the sun but never feel the quiet warmth of morning. You do not need to prove the light within you to those eyes that only know how to search for sparks. Rest in what I know about you. That is where peace begins. When you are misunderstood but still choose gentleness, you step outside the territory of instinct. When you are wrongfully accused but still keep kindness, you cut the chain reaction of darkness. When you are wounded but still choose to listen, you allow me to create space between you and the chaos that screams. Peace is not the absence of conflict. Peace is the decision not to let conflict invade your inner being. Like a room that opens its windows to let light in. You do not seal your soul for fear of mockery. You open it to me, and I enter. There are souls who try to justify themselves to protect their image. Some who search for agreement from familiar faces, but the more they explain, the farther they drift. I do not forbid you from explaining. I only want you to know that explanation is not the source of peace. Evidence is not the foundation. Approval is not the root. True peace grows only from knowing that I understand you, even if no one else does. When you step into spiritual maturity, you will realize that I see every corner of your heart, not through your words, not through your actions, but through your intentions. And when you are seen by me, every misunderstanding from the world becomes nothing more than wind through leaves. No one stands in the storm and blossoms. The flower blooms when the rain has passed. Likewise, I do not expect you to transform pain into triumph instantly. I only ask that you remain standing. When you endure a distorted gaze, yet still trust in me, you are growing in silence. When you slow your breath and allow me to reset your heartbeat, you are learning a lesson that those who love noise will never understand. True peace is not a pleasant feeling. It is stability under pressure, like a tree standing in the storm. Not because the storm is weak, but because its roots have sunk deep into the soil I prepared for it long ago. Freedom does not mature in quiet days. It grows under strain. Just as muscle does not develop from lifting only once, but from repeated effort, sometimes painful, sometimes exhausting. Free will is also formed in those moments when you choose what is good, even when you have no inspiration, no reward, and no witnesses. These moments are like each incremental weight lifted by your arm. The fibers tear in the smallest threads, only to be reforged stronger than before. Your soul is the same. It does not tear because of pain. It opens so it may be reshaped. Many souls believe that maturity happens in a single burst when you feel my presence intensely, when you witness a miracle, or when you emerge from a major trial. But endurance does not live in that burst. It lives in how you continue to walk afterward. You are truly strong when you can do what is right on the third day, in the 6th week, in the 10th month, when the inspiration has vanished and your choices are no longer supported by emotion, when you repeat the small steps, when you continue to maintain peace amid the noise, when you reaffirm goodness in your weariness, that is when spiritual resistance is formed. Look at those who train a beginner at the gym, often faces that first shock, which makes them think they are weaker than they believed. But the shock is not failure. It is the first step of adaptation. The 2nd day is harder. The 3rd day more exhausting. The body aches as if it is breaking apart. Yet in truth, it is forming a new structure. I allow the soul to pass through spiritual pains for the same reason. Every time you resist irritation, you are training a group of muscles that are not yet accustomed to work. Every time you choose to listen instead of reacting, you are training the muscles of endurance. Every time you let go of bitterness, you are stretching the tendons of your heart. Spiritual resilience is not a gift I simply place in your hands. It is the result of repeated right choices. Some people think I measure faith only by victory, but I do not use the mountaintop as a scale. I look at how you climb each stone step. One time you refuse to be sucked into an argument proves nothing by itself, but 10 times you refuse it, a new nature is being formed. A single act of forgiveness may come from a passing emotion, but every time you are wounded and still choose kindness, you are laying the foundation of steadiness. Spiritual resistance is not the ability to suppress emotion. It is the ability not to let emotion rule you. Freedom becomes endurance when it is no longer dependent on circumstances. Do not think repetition is pointless. A drop of water falling on stone leaves no mark on the first day, but after 10,000 falls, the stone bears a hollow. Your soul is under the same law. One small choice may seem too weak to change anything, but when that choice is repeated across many seasons of your life, it will reshape your nature into something aligned with heaven. Free will, when practiced with perseverance, ceases to be a decision made in the heat of the moment. It becomes your backbone, your natural reflex, like breathing. When darkness comes, you no longer have to think so hard to choose the light. You have become the light. The world loves moments of display, sharp arguments that win, bold actions that overwhelm, courage that is loudly celebrated. But I do not seek souls that only know how to shine for a moment. I seek souls that know how to endure in silence. I do not place crowns on those who run fast for one lap. I crown those who walk rightly through thousands of unseen steps. Trial transforms you from someone who chooses the good into someone who can no longer bear to leave it. This is not coercion, it is transformation. Spiritual resilience is the capacity to stand firm without needing great victories, without needing strong inspiration, without needing approving eyes. You will recognize the change when one day you face a test that once made you sway. But this time your heart remains still, like calm water. You will no longer seek to win with words, no longer need to prove you are right, no longer react just to defend your ego. At that point, freedom is no longer merely a choice. It has become your nature. And in that nature, you become an instrument I can use without having to reshape you every time. The fire has done its work. Repetition has carved its mark. Storms have taught the tree how to hold on to its roots. There are people who walk through life unaware that every quiet choice they make is sheltering fragile souls around them. You assume that perseverance belongs only to you, that every time you choose peace it is merely to keep your own heart from shattering, that the steady rhythm of patience is just a private exercise. But I tell you that every beat of right choosing creates a spiritual atmosphere that others can breathe, like a great tree standing in an empty field. Its trunk does not embrace anyone. It speaks no words, yet its shade still covers the exhausted. You do not need to place your hand on someone's shoulder to lift them. You only need to stand firm so the warmth of your stability can radiate beyond you. A soul that has walked through the fire no longer trembles before a gentle breeze. When others still do not know how to endure, they will look at you as if drawn by an invisible invitation, not because you preach to them, but because you are not swept away by chaos. A person struggling with panic will sense the peace in you like cool water in a desert. At work, when someone vents their frustration out of exhaustion, you do not answer with anger. That deliberate silence tells them there is another way to live. You do not lecture them. Do not argue with them. Do not belittle them. You simply hold your peace. And that peace forms a bridge they may walk on when their legs are shaking, like an oil lamp set in the night. No one needs to understand its mechanism to receive its light. The light does not argue, it simply shines. You are the same. When your soul has passed through many seasons of testing, that stability becomes light. Some may not know your name, may not know your story, may not understand the source of your strength, but in a single moment beside you, something in them becomes less chaotic. I do not require you to have answers for every question. I only want you to learn how to stand firm in the midst of questions that are not yet resolved. That very steadfastness is the answer. Remember the story of the man Job. When he suffered loss, his friends came, trying to analyze, reason, and explain the storm that had fallen on his life. But it was Job's steadfastness before me, not their arguments, that carried spiritual weight. Job was not perfect. He had cries of pain, yet he did not walk away. His remaining became a refuge for those who watched. You do not need to know all the reasons. You only need not to abandon the bond between us. There are souls who think that to help others they must stand high. Speak loudly. Prove their superiority. I do not need you to become a towering watchtower. I need you to be solid ground. The storm does not respect the height of the tower. It respects the depth of the roots. When you have rooted yourself in me, anyone who leans on you is leaning on me without knowing it. You are not the destination. You are the path by which my light passes through. The world will not record such acts. You will hear no thank you. Receive no award. Be announced on no stage. But a mature soul does not need a stage. It lives like a stream. It does not require applause for its flow. It only needs to keep flowing. Those who thirst do not praise the stream. They simply drink. So it is with your perseverance. You do not help others by saying you are strong. You help them by truly being strong even when no one knows. Let this be etched within you. Endurance is not a shield only meant to protect yourself. It is a sheltering roof for souls who do not yet know how to face the storm. When you choose not to react in anger, you are not merely keeping your own peace. You are cooling the air between many hearts. When you walk through misunderstandings without seeking revenge, you preserve a small fragment of light in the lives of others. I do not require you to change the world. I only ask that you do not let the world carry away the light I have entrusted to you. From that light, others will see a path they never knew existed. And when the time comes, they will follow it. Many believe that mission only begins when they have enough talent, enough reputation, enough knowledge, or enough dazzling proof in their lives. They wait for a perfect moment when they no longer stumble, no longer feel weak, no longer feel fear, and only then dare to step into the calling I have placed within them. But mission is not given to souls who never fail. Mission is given to souls who know their freedom comes from me, and who understand that willingness is the key that opens the door to service. Accomplishment may make you proud, but willingness makes you a vessel I can place my hand upon. Like the fishermen on the shores of Galilee, they were not scholars, not religious leaders, not people of influence. They only knew repeated actions: casting nets, pulling nets, sorting fish, repairing boats. Yet when I drew near, I did not ask them to prove they understood faith. I simply said, "Follow me." There was no interview, no exam, no resume of achievements. There was only a response. That very response was the evidence of free will. They chose me, even when they did not know where I would lead them. Mission began from that simple turning, not from human completeness, but from the softness of the soul. Free will is not an ornament for self-decoration. It is a doorway through which I enter with my purpose. You may use freedom to prove yourself, to compete, to shine, to seek approval. But that freedom collapses the moment you treat it as your own possession. When you place freedom in my hands, mission begins to breathe. I do not need you to be confident. I need you to trust me. I do not demand that you know all the answers. I ask you to draw near enough to hear. A surrendered soul does not ask, "Am I good enough?" but asks, "What may I do today so that your will flows through me?" Remember that in Exodus, I chose Moses not because he spoke well. He trembled, hesitated, and declared himself unworthy. I am slow of speech and tongue. Yet it was precisely in that weakness that I placed my power. If Moses had been a great orator, the mission would have belonged to his ability. But because he was not strong by the standards of the world, Israel was forced to see my hand at work. Mission is not given for you to display your skill. It is given so that I may reveal my glory. Some souls ask, "Have I learned enough? Have I matured enough? Have I failed too much?" But you do not realize that such questions already reveal the core issue you are looking at: mission from your perspective, not mine. I do not call you because you are perfect. I call you so that you may be shaped toward purpose. I do not seek the invincible. I seek those who can still hear me when the winds of life roar. Those I use are not polished steel walls. They are earthen vessels with cracks through which the light may escape. Free will is the power to choose what governs you. If you use it to guard your ego, mission will never draw close. If you use it to escape responsibility, you will live a safe life, but an empty one. If you use it to follow me, you will step into places you cannot accomplish on your own. I will give you strength you do not have, take you to spaces where you feel unqualified, place you beside souls you do not know how to comfort, and in that very awkwardness, mission will take root. You will learn that you do not need to know how to do everything, you only need to know that I walk ahead of you. Look at the disciples after my resurrection. None of them were perfect. Peter denied me 3 times. Thomas doubted. James and John sought the highest seats, yet I did not cast them aside. I restored them so they could be instruments of grace, not of perfection. The bearer of mission is the one who has known failure and returned, because such a soul understands that every victory is mercy. The world gives authority to the strong. I entrust mission to those who know how to depend on me. When you understand this, you will stop worrying about whether you are worthy. You will stop comparing yourself to others. You will stop waiting for inspiration. You will begin to do the small things I place before you, a kind word to the weary, a gentle silence in the midst of anger, a simple invitation to someone who is lost. Mission is not a summit, it is countless footsteps of faith walking one after another. Each step says, I choose you. And that chain of choices opens the doorway through which I flow into your life. Some believe that I only entrust mission to those who have never stumbled. As if the shadows of the past could seal heaven's doors, they try to build flawless resumes, collect achievements, strain themselves to prove they are worthy. But the more you strive for perfection, the farther you drift from me, because you begin to think, I need triumph instead of heart. I do not measure the soul by how many times it never erred, but by how many times it returns after wandering. I do not define you by the stains. I define you by the direction you choose once you have seen them. In Luke 15, I spoke of the son who went far away. He did not return because he was perfect. He returned because he was exhausted. He did not bring offerings, explanations, or a strategy to restore honor. He carried only a small truth: I will get up and return. That moment, not the feast, not the robe, not the ring, was the turning point. He had not yet changed his behavior, had not yet proved loyalty. He only changed direction. I ran to him not when he met the standard, but when he turned around. Return is a spiritual act deeper than every attempt to erase mistakes. No soul ever steps into light without stumbling in darkness. A child learns to walk not because it never falls, but because it does not treat the fall as the conclusion. You cannot grow if you abandon the journey out of shame after every mistake. When you return after a failure, you declare that truth matters more than pride, that light is worth more than ego, that I am greater than your sense of dignity. Return is not defeat, it is humility with wisdom. The wise are not those who never err. The wise are those who do not let error define the future. There are souls who carry a secret fear. If you truly knew how weak I have been, you would abandon me. But I have never loved you because you are undefeated. I love you because you are a soul capable of learning. If you live in fear of making a mistake, you will never dare to choose what is right. If you live only to avoid falling, you will never know what it is to rise. I do not need you to shut yourself away like a flawless vessel placed on a shelf. I need you to become a vessel that pours water, even if it has been cracked, even if it has been broken, even if it has been mended by grace. I place my flow into vessels that have been repaired, because they understand care. They understand gratitude, and they do not become proud. I do not look for souls that hide their wounds, because wounds hidden away harden into pride. I look for souls that bring their wounds into the light so that I may touch them. Like the son who returned in Luke 15. He did not say, "Please believe that I have changed." He only said, "Please let me come back." I did not wait for him to prove himself. I ran. I embraced him. I put a ring on his finger. I restored his place. Calling does not begin with worthiness. Calling begins with return. A soul that knows how to come back does not need to be strong all at once. It only needs to be honest. That honesty is where I can lay a foundation. The one who thinks they are perfect will not allow me to shape them. They want me to give them glory without washing their ego. But the one who knows their own weakness will learn how to lean on me. The one who knows they have gone astray will watch their steps more carefully. The one who knows they have been wounded will become gentle with other souls. These are the ones to whom I entrust responsibility, because they do not lead through arrogance, but through empathy. They do not pull others along by force, but by truthfulness. Do not see returning as a step backward. It is the beginning. When you return, you surrender the right to justify yourself. You place your heart in my hands and allow me to shape it. From that moment on, your actions are no longer efforts to prove your value, but tender responses to a love that pursued you long before you knew my name. A soul that has returned no longer lives to please the world, but to be in union with me. And in that union, calling is not a heavy assignment. It is the natural breathing of the soul. There are decisions you believe are only private matters between you and me, affecting only a small corner of your inner life. You think that one moment of restraint, one relinquished outburst, one quiet choice toward what is good, is simply your way of preserving your own peace. But I tell you that every spiritual choice creates a trajectory that extends beyond you. Like a dam standing in the midst of a great current, it does not stretch out its hands to grasp each drop of water. It does not argue with every wave, yet its very steadfastness keeps the land behind it from being submerged. A soul that chooses rightly does not only protect itself, it becomes an invisible safeguard for souls not yet strong enough to withstand the flood. Look at the family. Often you say nothing. You simply lay down a sharp judgment that is rising in your heart, and yet others sense that something in the atmosphere is settling. They do not know where it comes from. They do not know why things suddenly feel a little lighter. They only know that the tension did not break into a storm. You do not need to declare, "I am keeping the peace." You only need to refuse to give darkness another excuse to attack. A dam does not boast to the valley. It simply stands there, bearing the pressure alone, so that those behind it can walk on dry ground. When you refuse to react according to instinct, the change does not happen only within your thoughts. It affects those who are watching. A child in the house will see you choose gentleness instead of anger, and their soul will learn that there is another way. A friend who is confused will notice that you are not shaken by insult, and in their amazement, they will discover that peace is real. I see these things not only on the side of those who receive, but also on the side of the one who gives. You have created a spiritual space, quiet yet wide enough for others to step into. Weak souls often compare themselves to the surface of water before the wind. A single touch, and it ripples. But when they stand near a soul I have trained in endurance, they sense a stillness that no words can give. You do not need to lecture them. You do not need to teach. You do not need to appear profound. Your stability itself is the lesson. Every spiritual stronghold begins with a soul that knows how to stand firm. That firmness is not stubbornness. It is choosing me even while emotions tremble. Like the dam, you do not try to flatten the waves. You simply refuse to let them destroy what I have built within you. There are those who think spiritual influence belongs only to leaders, to those with reputation, to those under the spotlight. But I delight in gentler ways of working. The quiet strength of a patient mother can keep an entire family from falling apart. The perseverance of a worker who prays silently in weariness can preserve a glimmer of light in a dark workplace. The world sees only the surface, who is the strongest, who speaks the loudest, who holds the platform. I look at who stands firm. The one who stands firm becomes a dam not by their voice, but by their capacity to endure. But the most important thing is this: you will never know fully who is being saved from the storm because of your choices. When you choose not to retaliate, someone else may be learning not to retaliate. When you choose to forgive, someone else may lay down a chain of bitterness. When you choose to return, someone else may decide not to give up. That impact does not sound like a trumpet, it seeps in like rain. A dam does not know how many fields, how many roofs, how many lives depend on it. It only knows it must stand in its appointed place. So it is with you. You do not need to see the whole map of your influence. You only need to remain faithful in your choices in me. Engrave this in your heart: spiritual influence is not the power to push forward, it is the power to keep evil from spreading. A steadfast soul is a fence that holds back waves of chaos that many others do not have the strength to resist. I am not only saving your soul when you learn to choose well, I am using that choice as a foundation for many others. That is why I do not train you through dazzling victories, but through perseverance in silence. For perseverance is the root. It holds others in place even when they do not yet know that truth is protecting them through your life. There are those who believe that to change the world they must speak loudly, make striking gestures, hold positions that force others to listen. They seek stages, seek audiences, seek evidence to convince the world that they have worth. But I do not measure influence by echo. I measure it by the heartbeat of a soul in harmony with me, like light passing through a window in the night. It does not knock on doors. It does not demand attention. And yet every road thick with darkness is gently lit by a single band of light. You do not need to announce your calling. You only need to live in me, so that my peace naturally overflows from you. Spiritual influence is not built from the outside in, but from the inside out. When your mind is no longer pulled by applause or wounded by judgment. When your heart stops asking, "What do I gain?" and begins to ask, "What do I desire?" You have entered harmony. That harmony makes no sound. It forms an invisible field. A restless coworker may stand near you and feel themselves settling. A worried family member may speak with you and not know why their fear quiets. Not because you encouraged them, nor because you taught them a lesson. It is because you are no longer using your own energy to resist the world. You allow me to flow through you, like a lamp placed in a window. The light does not ask who will be illuminated today. It simply shines, and whoever steps into its glow receives its benefit. I do not ask you to become the sun that lights every corner of the earth. I ask you to be the lamp in the right place. Many souls are consumed with the ambition to change the entire world, yet they lack the endurance to hold peace in a single room. They seek to make a loud impact, but cannot keep a quiet heart when they are misunderstood. I do not place your calling where eyes are fixed. I place it where faithfulness is needed, and from that faithfulness, influence spreads like light, slipping through a narrow door. Some say, "I cannot speak well. I have no status. No one listens to me." But I have chosen instruments that seemed unworthy. Gideon trembled in the night and said, "I am too small." I did not give him a speech. I gave him peace to stand in the midst of fear. That standing became the doorway to deliverance. David was only a shepherd boy. No one saw the influence hidden in the strings of his harp. Yet that sound drove darkness from the heart of a king, not because of talent, because he played not to impress, but to steady his heart in me. When the heart is in harmony, every note becomes a weapon of light. In daily life you will encounter small moments that seem insignificant, a message sent at the right time, a greeting with no motive, a patience no one notices. Yet that is where influence appears. The other person may never say they stood because of you, but the unseen part of their soul will lean upon a new support. I do not need recognition to work through you. I only need you brave enough not to close the door when I enter. A lamp does not ask, "Who is watching me?" It only asks, "Do I have enough oil to burn?" Spiritual harmony is not an emotion. It is the alignment between your will and mine. When you live this way, you no longer try to create influence. You become influence. Not because you are strong, but because you no longer struggle to carry strength alone. Not because you are wise, but because you allow me to whisper words in the quiet. Not because you are perfect, but because you no longer fight to defend your ego. Others may see you not reacting, but I see you choosing me. And that choice is the current of light passing through every space you enter. Remember this, and keep it deep within. True influence does not need to be named. It does not need witnesses. It does not require gratitude. It only needs a soul willing to stand in my peace. A seawall does not need to be credited. It only needs to hold its place. A window frame does not need decoration. It only needs to stay open so light may pass through. And so it is with you. You are not the center of influence. You are the vessel through which I send influence into the lives of others. There are people who walk beside you. Watch how you live. Listen to how you respond to life. Yet they never ask a question. They do not ask for advice. They do not show admiration. They offer no sign that they are paying attention. And yet, inside them, something subtle moves, an uncharacteristic quiet, a gentle question mark, a fragile spark amid exhaustion. You do not know its source, but I do. It does not come from sharp instruction, nor from pressure to perform, nor from judgment. It comes from you living in me, not because you convince them, but because the peace within you awakens a distant memory, the memory of where their soul truly belongs. Imagine someone lost for years, living among noise, temptation, and fear, gradually forgetting what it feels like to rest in a quiet home. When they enter a warm room, they do not need a lecture to understand the difference. Their body already knows. So it is with the soul. When you live in harmony with me, you become that warm room. You do not need a sign that says this is peace. You do not need promises. You do not need to force anyone to change. Your presence, once shaped by me, will awaken in them the memory of light. And that awakening is stronger than any argument. There are souls running away, not from me, but from the truth they once held. They fear stopping, afraid that if they sit still long enough, buried questions will rise again. They accept busyness, noise, and drama as if constant motion proves they are alive. But when they encounter someone who does not need noise to feel strong, who does not need victory in debate to feel safe, who does not need to be right to feel worthy, they become unsettled. That unsettledness is not resistance. It is the whisper of memory. I once knew a place like this. You do not force them. You become the mirror that reveals the distance between their current life and their true self. Do not confuse awakening with coercion. Coercion says, change right now. Awakening says, you once belonged to the light. A soul in harmony does not pull others with fear or pressure. It makes them see the poverty of the darkness they cling to. The prodigal son in Luke 15 did not return because someone preached at him. Hunger reminded him of home. He was not forced, he remembered, and memory was enough to turn him around. You are not the whip that drives them home. You are the fragrance of the house they abandoned. When you walk through life without fighting every gust of wind, without displaying every victory, without reacting to every touch, people will ask, why do you not tremble? They will see something stable that their reason cannot explain. I do not require you to answer them. I only ask you to keep walking in me, so the question may remain in them. Questions that remain are not yours to solve, they are seeds I plant. A seed needs silence, time, deep soil, and darkness to sprout. You offer your peace, I will handle the rest. No one changes under force. People change only when their exhaustion with darkness becomes more real than their fear of light. And it is your presence that helps darkness become visible. You do not need to recite what I have done in your life when you live rightly with me. The world around you will see what words cannot convey. Those who have run far from me are not ignorant of truth. They have simply forgotten how belonging feels. A soul in harmony with me does not make them understand, it makes them remember. I want you to engrave this in your heart as a covenant. Your mission is not to pull people toward me. Your mission is to live in such a way that I may draw them through your life. When you stand firm in truth, you become a breakwater. When you shine without trying to shine, you become a window. When you choose me again and again, you become a reminder of the eternal home. Do not force become, for it is within the very existence that has become one with me that you awaken souls, not by strength, but by stirring the memory of the homeland they have lost. I did not place your life as a closed book from the first page to the last, where you need only walk along predetermined lines. I did not lock your soul into an unchangeable itinerary, nor force you down a path arranged like mechanical gears. I crafted destiny like a loom. The frame of my will is firm, ordered, stable, but the threads are chosen by you. I do not force the direction of each strand. I provide the pull, the rhythm, the pattern, and you decide how your thread bends, how it turns left or right, how it embraces other strands or stands alone. Destiny is not a prison. It is a symphony between my will and your will. When you understand this, you will cease to fear destiny, because you will know I do not write in your place. I write with you. Look at the weavers seated before the loom. In their hands are fragile threads, weak, seemingly without purpose. When the first thread enters, it does not know whether it will lie in the center or hide along the edge, but it follows the rhythm of the weaver's hands, each pull, each turn. The weaver does not twist the thread until it breaks, nor wield force. The weaver adjusts, lifts gently, waits, and in that very gentleness, the thread learns how to bend, how to rest beside another thread, how to become part of the pattern. You are not forced to become what I desire. You are invited to become what I see in you. An invitation is always different from a command. An invitation preserves dignity, while a command only creates slaves. Some ask, then where am I in all your choices? I am in every small opportunity, in every unseen opening, in every unexpected circumstance. I do not throw you into the storm to prove your strength. I bring you to intersections where your freedom can meet my wisdom. I do not stand at the end of the road holding a scorecard. I stand in the middle of the path, lifting the fabric whenever your thread is about to snap. If I impose destiny as a rigid decree, you would not be a soul. You would only be an object that moves. But I want you to love me not out of fear, but because your own will has chosen me in freedom. There are threads that believe themselves too weak to become the warp of the cloth. They beg me not to place them at the center. I do not scold. I do not force. I let them rest along the edges for a time, beside threads that are stronger. But when the moment comes, I bring them back not because I need them to fill a gap, but because the pattern is incomplete without them. You are never surplus in my design. The times you walk out of rhythm do not make me abandon the loom. I simply wait for the next pull. And that patience itself is the proof of my love, a love that never rejects the thread, still learning to rest in its right place. There are souls who tremble when they hear the word mission, as though it were a burden, they have no strength to bear. But mission is not a sentence, it is a piece of the pattern placed into your hands, so you may weave with me. I do not tell you, handle it alone. I tell you, hold this end with me. When you walk in surrender, when you allow me to adjust each small misalignment, you will see that the design is not forced into shape, it is guided into being. I do not seek perfect threads, I seek those that do not refuse my hand. A pattern does not demand hardness, it only needs willingness. And when the fabric is finally woven, when every thread has learned to harmonize, you will witness the wonder, every curve, every turn that once seemed meaningless. Every segment you thought was wasted becomes the very place where the design is revealed. You will understand that what I do is not to select the strong and discard the weak. What I do is turn every thread into part of a beauty you could not comprehend at first. Destiny is never a verdict. It is my invitation for you to participate in my creation. Freedom is not erased by the design. Freedom is the essence that makes the design alive. A garden does not bear fruit because of a single day of favorable rain, nor does it bloom because of a sudden burst of excitement from the gardener. The harvest arrives from repeated footsteps, from the gentle touch of hands tending each patch of dry soil, from the countless moments of trimming leaves that seem uneventful. Your destiny is the same. It does not appear because of one radiant victory, but is woven through every time you quietly return to me, even when no one sees, no one praises, and no emotions carry you. A seed does not need loud drums, it only needs soil, water, light, and time. A soul does not need flattery, it only needs faithful repetition in each choice. There was a man who looked down at the barren land before him. On the first day, he planted a single seed. On the second day, he watered it. On the third day, he pulled the weeds. No one saw anything change. Passers-by laughed and said he was wasting his effort, but he returned to that field every morning. For he did not seek excitement, he sought growth. It was that quiet, repeated return without noise or spectacle that allowed the young roots to anchor deeper, and one day they broke forth into shoots. In that moment, the world believed he had been blessed, but in truth, it was the resonance of 100 unseen returns they never witnessed. In the spiritual life, the deepest things do not come from bursts of emotion, but from the times you patiently return to me when your heart is dry. I see every time you open Scripture even when you feel nothing. I record every time you kneel though your mind is fractured. I cherish every breath you give to listen to me while the noise of life screams outside the door. Those moments, small as dew on leaves, are the droplets that preserve life beneath the soil. You do not see the growth. I do. Remember Noah? He did not build the ark in a day, and he did not build it when inspiration exploded. He fastened each plank according to my word, year after year. In the midst of the world's ridicule, the waters had not come, the rain had not fallen, the evidence had not appeared, yet he returned to the hammer, to the timber, to the call I placed in his heart. His destiny was not a random reward, it was the natural result of persistence in returning to my will. And David, before he became king, spent long years simply returning to the shepherd's field. No applause, no recognition, no status, only the wind across the hills and a heartbeat in rhythm with mine. It was from that repeated faithfulness that the destiny of a kingdom opened, not as a gift handed over, but as a harvest arriving in its appointed season. Someone says, I prayed once. I read the word once. I chose the right thing once, so why hasn't my life changed? They forget that the seed needs darkness. It needs time. It needs silence to break the hard shell surrounding it. A grain of wheat does not sprout the moment it is sown. It must die before it lives again. It must decompose before the sprout takes shape. Returning to me is not a sudden breakthrough. It is the peeling away of the soul's layers, one by one. Do not demand a harvest after a single watering. That is not how I designed creation. In the nights when you sit still just to breathe in my peace, asking for nothing, explaining nothing, I am not silent. I am nourishing your soul like the quiet rain of the night watering the earth. Heaven does not measure time by the urgency of the world. Heaven measures the journey by how many times you return, by the moments you choose me over quick comforts, by the decisions to surrender what is immediate in order to preserve what is eternal. Destiny does not open in fireworks. It grows like a tree slowly, quietly, unnoticed, yet certain. Do not think I choose someone as my instrument because they excel at once. I choose the one who knows how to return, because that soul proves it has soil in which I can plant. A soul may be gifted, strong, sharp, but if it does not know how to return, every seed I place in it will dry and crack. Destiny is not entrusted to the one who runs fast, but to the one who never stops returning, though weary, though slow, though no longer surrounded by companions. In Scripture, there is not a single person I used who did not live in a rhythm of returning. Abraham, Moses, Elijah, Paul, all were those who came back again and again. In the uncertainty of ordinary days, carve this into your heart. You do not reap destiny because of luck. You reap because each day you choose the water, the light, and the soil I give. Just as a garden does not bloom because of one perfect day, but because of 100 days of tending, 1,000 hours of waiting, 10,000 moments of patience. Destiny does not come from sudden miracles. It comes from the invisible resonance of all the times you return to me in silence while the world chases thunder. When light passes through many doors, it does not change its nature. It simply reveals what lies beyond them. Free will is the same. It does not create holiness or darkness inside a soul. It only reveals what that soul has consistently chosen day by day, moment by moment, reaction by reaction. Some imagine I use free will as a scale of judgment, weighing who is worthy and who is discarded. But I do not place your soul on a balance to decide. I place you before the final mirror, where light penetrates every excuse, every reason, every explanation, and your essence appears, not to punish, but to reveal what has been quietly accumulated over time. There are souls who spend their entire lives thinking choice is a single action, a word spoken, a step taken, a decision made. But I see choice as dripping water upon stone. One drop does not carve the crevice. 1,000,000 drops shape a river. Likewise, choosing me once does not make you mine, but hundreds of returns. In exhaustion, in boredom, in silence, will make your soul my soil. When light enters, it does not ask, "What did you do once?" Light asks, "What have you done consistently?" Look at the final door within a house. You may close every door before it to hide disorder, but when the morning sun slips through that last crack, the room reveals itself as it truly is. The light does not break walls, does not force the air to obey, does not compel anyone to look up. It simply exists, and its very existence becomes judgment, not because I impose it, but because of what has silently accumulated over time. So too, when you stand before me at the final hour, I will not need to speak. My light alone will allow the soul to see where it has gone. Many say, "If you are good, why do you let people destroy themselves with their choices?" They do not understand that forcing you to choose rightly is not redemption, it is suffocation of the soul. Love imposed is violence. Obedience without freedom is enslavement. Growth without choice is not growth. Therefore, I do not take away your freedom. I only let the final light shine so that choice can speak for itself. Those who have chosen me will be like a house with open windows. Light enters, revealing wholeness. Those who have chosen darkness will not bear it, not because the light condemns, but because their soul no longer has the capacity to receive. Remember those in Scripture. Jesus did not force Judas to remain at the table. He gave bread, gave opportunity, gave the final look, and then he let him walk out. Scripture says, "And it was night." The night did not assault him. He stepped into it. Light revealed what he had chosen many times before: ambition, comparison, betrayal, until, when the final truth shone on him, he had no path left but the darkness he himself had accumulated. Freedom did not kill him. His accumulated choices carved the road. In the same way, when you return to me again and again, though results remain unclear, though the world does not acknowledge you, though your heart is still full of questions, the final light will shine upon a soul padded with trust, not because you have become exalted, but because light met the right material. The tree that drank water throughout the drought stands when the sun burns. The tree without roots withers even in spring. Destiny is not a prize I toss from heaven. It is the reflection of a life nourished by small choices. Do not think I keep a ledger of merits to decide how to treat you. I look at the rhythm of your heart. I do not ask, "What have you proven?" I ask, "What have you become?" For destiny is not a trophy. It is a spiritual structure formed within you. My light merely makes that structure visible. What you have chosen to love or to hate, to trust or to doubt, to serve or to take, to return or to abandon, will all appear in that radiance. Therefore, free will is the final mirror. It does not exist to threaten you. It exists to give you the chance to build a soul that can stand in the light without panic. When every disguise, every rationale, every plea has fallen away, only what you have chosen throughout your life remains. It is not I who condemns, it is reality. Answering destiny equals the reflection of accumulated choices. And the most beautiful thing is this: you can reshape that mirror every day. With every return, with every whisper I continue to place in your heart, O soul beloved by me. When you read these words, I know your heart is standing before a very particular silence. It is no longer the fleeting questions of the mind, nor is it shallow curiosity. It is the sensation of realizing you have walked past a doorway without knowing it was there. That is where I have always been waiting, not to impose, not to threaten, not to prove my superiority, but to show you that your life has never been a collection of isolated actions or temporary emotions. It is a spiritual road, a trajectory of becoming, a quiet answer from your soul to the light I plant in it each and every day. You still believe that the moments of murmuring, hesitation, turning away, fatigue, or choosing silence to preserve a fragile peace are things unseen by anyone. But I see them, not to judge, but to acknowledge every turn of your soul. You have asked why I value small things such as your refusal to retaliate against the one who insulted you, your decision to stay a few minutes longer, to listen instead of rushing away, your choice to forgive when you have every reason to accuse. I value them because those very choices are the rhythm that forms the soul. A person is not lifted up by a single grand victory, but is shaped by thousands of correct decisions made when no one sees, when no one applauds, when your mind receives no reward except quiet peace. You often want your soul to be recognized immediately. You want to see quick results, to see yourself transformed clearly, to see a sharp proof with your own eyes, so you can know your efforts are not wasted. But you must remember that I work with the soul not as a sculptor works with stone. I do not carve you into shape with a few precise blows. I let you walk step by step, so you may discern the difference between light and darkness, so you may learn to stand again upon your own feet. You imagine endurance as harsh discipline, but in truth, it is the spiritual home you are building for yourself, brick laid upon brick each day. Silent and unassuming, yet so solid that when the storm comes, it no longer needs to strain to remain standing. Free will is the field I have given you to cultivate. It is not a piece of jewelry to hang around your neck for display, nor a talisman to protect you from responsibility. It is soil you must dig, sow, water, endure through drought, and patiently wait for. Many believe I reward them for good intentions, but my beloved soul, intention is only a seed placed in the hand. If it is never sown into earth, if it does not accept mud and rain, if it never endures the cold season, it remains a beautiful thought and nothing more. I do not give heaven as a prize for those who merely wish well. I give heaven as the completion of choices that have walked steadily through trial. When I tell you that hell is not the place I throw people into, but the consequence of turning away from the light, I do not speak to instill fear. I speak so you may understand that nothing in your life is wasted if you use it to return. There is only one moment that becomes dangerous: when the soul stops choosing, stops seeking, stops responding to the call. Darkness does not devour you, passivity carries you away. An arrow flies far not because the wind is too strong, but because the archer held the string drawn toward the darkness for too long. Likewise, you do not fall from the light because the world is too dark, but because you stop turning toward me. Remember this: I do not count how many times you stumble. I only look at where you lift your eyes after you rise. When a child falls, a mother does not record how many times it slipped. She rejoices when she sees it try again. Many souls sink because they believe a single failure has proven them unworthy. But you have never heard me say, "You must be perfect." I only said you must return. When you choose to return, you do not deny the mistake. You honor the truth that you need me, that you cannot define your worth by failure. The prodigal son in Luke 15 did not become a son by doing right. He was a son even as he wandered. When he returned, he simply stepped back into the place where love had always been waiting. I teach you through silence because I believe the mature soul is not built from thunder, but from the capacity to find me in quiet. If I spoke loudly every time you faced a decision, you would learn to rely on my voice, but never learn to recognize me. Like a diver who only knows to breathe when guided, but never learns the rhythm of his own heartbeat. I want you to know me deeper than sound, deeper than words, deeper than grand signs. I want you to seek me in calmness, in unremarkable moments, in the space between two ticks of time. My child, you have not yet realized that freedom is not the key to open every door. It is the capacity to choose the right door among 1,000 paths. Easy roads require no freedom, for they only follow instinct. But my road always requires you to answer the deeper question: who do you wish to become? Not, what do you want to receive? Not, what are you trying to escape? But how will you reflect the light when darkness surrounds you? The life of the soul is not a series of wins and losses, but a journey of answering that question every day. And when you are too weary to evaluate yourself, I want you to know that I see you differently. You see fragments, mistakes, cracks. I see the flow, the consistency of return, the endurance of love, the humility of learning. I do not shape destiny as a rigid decree, like a statue frozen in one posture. I weave destiny like a cloth, with you as the thread, where each twist is a choice. I do not force you into a color. I simply provide the loom upon which you may form your own pattern. I am the weaver, but you decide how you pass through the frame of time. Do not be deceived into thinking destiny is a reward for perfection. Destiny is the fruit of continual return. A garden does not bloom because it was watered a few times. it blooms because of patient care on damp days, on dry nights, on mornings no one sees. When I grant harvest, I do not give it as compensation, I give it as reflection of the endurance you have nurtured. Heaven does not open its gates to reward one moment of rightness. It opens to welcome souls who have chosen the light until light has become their native home. If you ask, where am I on this journey, I do not answer with measurements. 20%, 50%, almost there. I answer with a question: do you still desire to return? A soul that still knows how to return has never been lost. A soul that has stopped returning, yet lives in the illusion of self-sufficiency, that is the one who has missed the train. Not because I refuse them, but because they no longer recognize my voice. There is no silence more terrifying than the silence of a soul unaware that it needs light. When the final moment arrives, not a brutal day of judgment, but the instant when the last mirror is raised, you will not stand before me as before a judge, but as before a light that makes you see yourself. Light does not condemn, it reveals. And what is revealed will be what you have chosen to accumulate: love or hatred, return or justification, service or possession, listening or dismissal. I do not erase the history of your choices, I simply allow them to be seen. If you have read this far, you are already within a delicate movement. I do not call you through thunder, I call you through the gentle pulse of compassion. You do not need to prove anything right now. You only need one decision. Begin building your soul through small choices toward me. You do not need to be strong. You do not need achievements. You do not need grand promises. You only need one wholehearted step, one moment of turning your gaze back. Every breath you are given is an invitation. Every passing moment is an opportunity. I do not stand above you to see whether you fail. I stand beside you, quietly, waiting for the moment you say, I choose the light. And when you say this, it is not the world that changes, your soul begins to reshape its reflection. I have done my part, I have given freedom, I have given light, I have given countless opportunities. The rest is in your hands, not to prove your worth, but so that you may become the very soul you were born to be. Walk forward. I walk with you. Now pray in this way: Lord, teach me to cherish the gift of freedom you have placed within my soul, not as a right to do whatever I wish, but as a grace that allows me to freely step toward the light. Help me remember that I am not someone forced to do what is right, but someone you have trusted to choose what is good, even when no one is watching. Keep me from the illusion of ambition, from the call of impulse, so that my heart may learn to return to you in every small decision. And through this, may I see you in every breath of life. Lord, open my eyes to understand that consequences are not judgments you throw down, but the gentle echo of the path I am taking. Help me learn to listen to peace as the sign of cooperation with you, and recognize heaviness in the mind not as punishment, but as a reminder that I am drifting away from the light. Help me not fear the effects of my choices, but treat them as a quiet teacher pointing the way. Lord, let the freedom within me not dry up like a forgotten stream, but become like fresh water replenished each day through listening. Do not let fatigue, numbness, or the whispers of later choke the flow of my will, so that my soul may always return to your source. Help me preserve freedom not by trying to control everything, but by being ready to return whenever I sense the water growing weak. Lord, help me remember that you do not stand on high, waiting for me to choose wrongly so you may judge me, but stand beside me, sharing the hesitation of my heart. Do not let me imagine that you are present only when I succeed. Let me see you, even in the moments when I am learning to rise after I fall. Make your companionship the slow breath I lean upon, not the fear that drives me to punish myself. Lord, help me understand that every small choice, even silent, is a root pushing into the ground. Help me choose kindness when I could choose bitter silence. Choose listening when I could react. Choose patience when anger beckons. Help me know that those very roots will hold me steady when the storm comes, and that you are the one who nurtures them each day. Lord, teach me not to seek you only in loud moments, but to recognize you as morning light passing through a window. Help me see that the light is always there, not angry when I draw the curtains, not gone when night lingers, simply waiting for me to turn toward it. Help me dare to open even a small gap in my heart, enough for you to enter and warm my soul. Lord, free me from the illusion that only great choices matter, so I do not overlook the small steps that guide the entire life of faith. Help me honor every quiet decision, because they are the lines that weave my very nature. Help me not seek greatness in action, but seek you in daily faithfulness. Lord, teach me not to use freedom to run from fear, but to step into love. Keep me from choosing merely to protect my image. Let me choose because I have seen the beauty of goodness in you. May every choice I make become a small but genuine step toward your heart. Lord, grant me the humility to recognize the contradictions within myself, not to hide them beneath beautiful behavior. Grant me the courage to bring those dark places before you, not to receive forgiveness cheaply, but to be healed in the light. Help me know that you are not ashamed of these weaknesses, you are only saddened when I deny them. Lord, help me listen to your quiet guidance more than to the loud voices of life. Teach me to discern the wind of your spirit from the whirlwind of fear, so that my soul may learn to stand still in peace instead of running in panic. Help me receive every nudge like a gentle whisper, not like harsh commands. Lord, help me not see freedom as a burden to carry, but as a gift through which I may practice love. Help me know that you believe in me more than I believe in myself, and that alone is enough for me to learn to choose the light even clumsily. Help me remember that you do not cross out a soul that is learning to choose. You uphold every step that leads toward you. Lord, keep my mind from chasing results, and teach me to feel the movements of the soul. Help me see that peace is not a reward, but the natural reflection of walking in your will. Help me return each time I no longer hear the voice of light, so that my nature may be shaped not by fear, but by your presence. I offer this prayer in the holy name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Do not forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so that together we may build a strong community of faith.